The corridor of the starship was unusually quiet. Lights hummed softly above, reflecting off the polished metal walls while the gentle vibrations of the ship's engines created a steady rhythm beneath their feet. Mara walked slowly, her fingers brushing against the cool panels along the walls. She could feel the tension building inside her, a sense of something waiting, something she couldn't yet name. Ever since the encounter with him in the cargo bay, the man who had looked at her like she was truly alive for the first time, Mara had been unable to shake the memory. The intensity of his gaze, the curiosity that seemed to pierce straight through her defenses haunted her more than any danger in the galaxy ever could. She had always prided herself on keeping her emotions under control, but now she found herself unsettled, wondering what it meant to be seen, really seen, by someone else. Her comlink buzzed softly, and she jumped, startled by the sudden sound. The message was brief. Meet at the observation deck, urgent. No signature, no explanation. Her heart skipped a beat as she turned toward the lift, thoughts racing. Could it be him? Or someone else? She didn't know. But the pull she felt toward that place was undeniable. She pressed the lift button and stepped inside, the metal floor humming beneath her boots as the doors slid shut. When she arrived at the observation deck, the vast expanse of space stretched out before her, stars scattered like diamonds across a dark velvet sky. The silence was complete, save for the quiet breathing of the ship and the soft hum of the engines. She wasn't alone. Standing near the window, looking out at the endless darkness, was the man. His back was to her, shoulders squared, posture relaxed yet alert. Mara felt her pulse quicken. She had been trying to understand him, to make sense of what he represented, but nothing she had imagined matched the presence he radiated. "He's here," a voice said in her mind. Or maybe it was just her own thoughts echoing. Mara shook her head, trying to focus, but her attention was drawn to him like a magnet. Slowly, she stepped forward, her boots clicking softly against the metal floor. He didn't turn, not yet. He remained silent, as if waiting for her to decide what to do next. Then he did something unexpected. Slowly, deliberately, he turned his head and their eyes met. For a moment the room seemed to shrink, the vastness of space outside forgotten. Mara felt a shiver run down her spine. There was recognition there, not the casual acknowledgement of a fellow traveler, but a deeper, more profound recognition, as if he understood her in a way no one else ever had. "Why are you here?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, though the sound seemed loud in the quiet room. He studied her for a moment, eyes scanning her face, and then he smiled. It wasn't a smile of amusement or mockery. It was something different. Gentle, deliberate, as if he were trying to reassure her, though it had the opposite effect. Mara felt exposed, as though he could see her thoughts and fears laid bare. She had always been careful to hide her vulnerabilities, but in that instant they were transparent. "I needed to see you," he said simply. His voice carried a calm authority, but there was a softness beneath it that made Mara uneasy. She wanted to retreat, to put space between them, but her feet refused to move. There was something about the way he looked at her, something almost human in the midst of the alien silence, that rooted her in place. The observation deck lights flickered for a brief second, and Mara took a cautious step back. The ship shuddered, subtle but unmistakable, and the man's gaze shifted toward the window. Mara followed his line of sight, her breath catching. Outside, a massive shadow moved across the stars, a shape so enormous that it defied comprehension. It was not the first time Mara had seen alien vessels, but this one felt different. Ominous, alive, as if it were aware of their presence. "Do you see it?" she asked, her voice trembling. The man nodded without taking his eyes off the shadow. He didn't speak immediately, but the tension in his body was palpable. Mara felt her own heartbeat quicken. Something was coming, something that demanded their attention, and yet he seemed strangely calm. "It's not alone," he said finally, his eyes meeting hers again. "There's a fleet approaching. They're studying us, waiting." His words sent a chill through her, but there was also a strange reassurance. He wasn't afraid, and that steadiness somehow grounded her. For a moment she felt as though she could trust him completely, though she didn't understand why. "What do we do?" she asked, though part of her already feared the answer. He turned to face the stars again, his silhouette framed by the galaxy beyond the window. "We prepare. We show them who we are." There was a fire in his gaze now, one that Mara had never seen before. It wasn't anger or hatred. It was determination. a fierce pride in the very essence of humanity. Mara felt it resonate within her, igniting a spark she hadn't realized was dormant. She realized then why his gaze had terrified her. It wasn't that he was dangerous, it was that he could see potential in her. In them, that she hadn't allowed herself to believe existed. The ship trembled again, a low hum that resonated through every panel, and Mara knew time was short. She glanced at the man. "You believe we can survive this?" she asked, the words barely forming. He smiled again, more confidently this time. "Not just survive. We'll show them why humans are something else entirely." His voice carried conviction, and in that moment Mara understood. It wasn't just about facing the unknown. It was about asserting existence, proving that humanity could endure, adapt, and overcome challenges that would break others. And in that realization, something shifted inside her. Fear was still there, but it was tempered by a fierce determination, one that matched his own. For the first time since stepping onto this starship, Mara felt truly alive. But the moment was fleeting. A warning klaxon echoed through the observation deck, red lights flashing as the ship registered incoming threats. The shadow outside moved faster now, revealing shapes that were unmistakably hostile. Mara felt a surge of adrenaline, her instincts kicking in. She was ready to act, to fight, to survive. But more than that, she was ready to be seen, to be counted, as part of something greater. The man reached out, and Mara instinctively took his hand. There was no hesitation, no second thought. It was a connection, a shared understanding that in this vast, cold galaxy they were not alone. Not truly alone. And though the danger outside the ship pressed closer with every heartbeat, Mara felt an unexpected calm settle over her. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was part of a story that mattered. A story where humans could rise above fear, above limitations, and confront the unknown with courage, unity, and hope. The observation deck shook again, the warning lights casting long shadows across their faces. Mara looked into his eyes once more, searching for any sign of doubt. There was none. Only resolve. And in that moment she realized why his gaze had terrified her. It wasn't the intensity of his attention. It was the reflection of what she could become, what they could all become, if they dared to step forward. "Let's show them," he said, voice steady, unwavering. "Yes," Mara replied, feeling the weight of her own determination settle in. Together they turned to face the star-filled void outside, ready to confront whatever waited beyond the ship's hull. The stars seemed to shimmer more brightly now, a promise of challenges to come, and the certainty that whatever happened, humanity would meet them head-on. The ship shuddered violently, throwing Mara against the cold metal wall. The warning klaxons blared louder, echoing through the corridors like angry voices of some unseen enemy. The observation deck's lights flickered as if struggling to remain steady, and the vast shadows of approaching vessels danced across the glass. Mara gripped the railing, trying to steady herself, her chest heaving with rapid breaths. Beside her, the man remained calm, almost unnervingly so. He held her hand firmly, guiding her to a small console near the center of the deck. "Control systems," he said. "We need to prepare for a defensive sequence." His voice carried that same quiet authority that had terrified and fascinated her the first time she saw it. Mara realized she trusted him without question. Every instinct in her body, every fear had to yield to his resolve. The console hummed beneath her fingers as she followed his instructions, entering commands and coordinating the ship's defensive matrix. Mara had spent years studying starship operations, but nothing in her training had prepared her for this moment. They were not just facing hostile vessels, they were facing an unknown force, intelligent and deliberate, observing them as though testing their worth. The man's eyes never left the stars. "They're analyzing us," he said. "Every movement, every response. They want to know what we can do." His words sent a chill down Mara's spine. These were not simple invaders. They were strategists, calculating and patient, waiting for the right moment to strike. And yet he did not waver. His focus, his belief in humanity's resilience, radiated outward, grounding Mara and steadying the nerves of the crew who had gathered at the deck. The first wave of alien scouts appeared on the view screen, sleek and angular, their surfaces reflecting starlight like polished obsidian. Their movements were precise, almost mechanical, yet there was an eerie grace to their formations. Mara felt a surge of awe mixed with fear. Never had she witnessed such coordination outside of human simulations, and yet within her a spark of pride ignited. Humanity might not be as advanced as these creatures, but they had something the aliens could not understand: adaptability, courage, and the relentless drive to survive. "Target their sensors first," the man commanded. "We need to blind them, confuse their formation. Give us an opening." Mara's hands moved quickly, initiating the sequence. Lights on the console blinked rapidly as the ship deployed countermeasures: decoys, electronic pulses, and blinding flashes of light. Outside, the alien scouts hesitated, their coordinated movements faltering for the first time. The man's gaze met hers again, and Mara felt the same strange thrill she had felt in the observation deck the first time he looked at her. It was not just recognition, it was expectation. He believed in her, in what she could do, and that belief became a force stronger than fear. Suddenly, the main bridge erupted with alarms. "Hull breach detected on the starboard flank," one of the crew shouted. Mara's stomach tightened. They had been so focused on the scouts that they hadn't noticed a larger vessel maneuvering into attack position. Mara looked at the man, who had already calculated their next move. "Evasive maneuvers," he said calmly. "Now." The ship tilted sharply, gravity pulling at Mara and the others as they held on. The stars streaked past in long lines of light as the ship darted through space, narrowly avoiding the massive alien vessel's energy beams. Mara's breath caught, adrenaline surging through her. Yet even in the chaos, the man's presence was a steady anchor. He directed every move with precision, and under his guidance, the crew responded as one. As the battle intensified, Mara noticed something remarkable. The alien fleet was not attacking blindly. They were probing, learning from each movement, adapting to their responses. But humans under the man's command were doing the same. Every strategy the aliens used, the humans countered with ingenuity and instinct. Mara felt a swelling pride. This was what he had seen in her when he looked at her as if she were alive for the first time. The untapped potential, the courage to rise above fear, and the capacity to fight with heart as well as skill. The next wave of attacks came from an unexpected angle. Smaller ships darting in and out of shadow, trying to flank them. Mara activated the ship's energy shields, diverting power from the engines to the defensive matrix. Sparks flew along the console, but she persisted, fingers flying over the controls. Beside her, the man directed tactical maneuvers, predicting the aliens' moves with uncanny accuracy. Mara couldn't help but wonder. How did he know? It was as if he could read the battle like a story, each movement a sentence, each decision a chapter. "Hold steady," he said, voice calm amid the chaos. "We're not just defending, we're sending a message." Mara's heart pounded. A message? She glanced at the man. He met her gaze again, eyes burning with determination. "Humanity survives," he said. "We endure, we adapt, and they will remember that." Mara felt a deep resonance with his words. It was not just about surviving this battle. It was about asserting their presence in the galaxy, proving that humans were not to be underestimated. The aliens might have strength, numbers, and strategy, but humans had ingenuity, unpredictability, and something deeper, a spark of life that refused to be extinguished. The ship's sensors picked up a signal, a weak, pulsing energy pattern originating from one of the larger alien vessels. "It's a command node," the man said. "If we disable it, we can disrupt their fleet." Mara's pulse quickened. This was their chance. Together, they formulated a plan, using the ship's agility and their own creativity to penetrate the alien formation. As they executed the maneuver, Mara noticed something unexpected. The man's attention was not only on the battle but on her. Every command he gave, every glance carried a subtle reassurance. He trusted her, believed in her, and in doing so he challenged her to trust herself. Mara realized that this connection, the bond forged in the heat of danger, was unlike anything she had ever experienced. It terrified her, yes, because it required vulnerability, but it also empowered her, giving her courage she didn't know she possessed. The maneuver succeeded. The command node was disabled, and the alien fleet's coordination faltered. Mara watched in awe as their formations broke apart, energy beams misfiring, smaller vessels retreating in confusion. Victory, even partial, was theirs. The ship's hull shuddered with residual blasts, but the immediate threat had passed. Mara allowed herself a moment to breathe, her body trembling from the intensity of the encounter. The man turned to her then, his expression unreadable for a brief second before softening. "You did well," he said. Not a casual compliment, but one that carried weight, recognition, and respect. Mara felt her chest tighten. This was not the praise of a commander to a soldier. It was acknowledgement of her as a human being, capable, alive, and essential. "Thank you," she whispered, unsure of what else to say. His eyes lingered on her for a moment longer, and Mara felt a strange warmth in the midst of exhaustion. She realized that the fear she had felt when he first looked at her had not disappeared. It had transformed. It was no longer terror of being seen. It was the thrill and responsibility of being recognized, of being called to rise to something greater. As the alien fleet retreated into the distance, the ship's system stabilized. Mara and the man stood together watching the stars once more, their shared silence heavy with unspoken understanding. Outside, space was calm again, the only movement the distant stars streaking past as the ship resumed its course. But Mara knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, full of unknown challenges and intelligent adversaries, but she also knew something else. Humans were not powerless. With courage, ingenuity, and unity, they could face anything. And with him by her side, Mara felt the full measure of that potential. "Prepare for the next encounter," he said finally, breaking the silence. "They will return and we must be ready." Mara nodded, feeling a deep sense of purpose settle over her. Together, they would face the unknown, challenge the odds, and show the galaxy that humans were more than mere survivors. They were something extraordinary. And in that truth, Mara found both fear and exhilaration, a terrifying yet thrilling affirmation that she was truly alive. The ship hummed with renewed energy as the crew went about their duties, preparing for whatever the universe might throw at them next. Mara remained at the observation deck side by side with the man who had seen her in a way no one else ever had. And for the first time in her life, she embraced it, not as a threat but as a call to greatness, a challenge she was ready to meet. The quiet that followed the retreat of the alien fleet was deceptive. Mara stood at the observation deck, eyes fixed on the stars, but she could feel it. Something lurking beneath the calm, something that promised that the battle was far from over. She shivered as she watched the distant glimmer of alien ships fading into the darkness. Their presence had left a mark, a lingering awareness that humans were now on their radar. Beside her, the man remained silent, his gaze unwavering. There was no panic, only calculation and resolve. Mara had begun to notice that he didn't react like most humans, or any humans for that matter, would. Danger did not make him frantic. It made him sharper, more focused. And while that was reassuring, it was also terrifying. There was a depth to him that Mara couldn't fully grasp, a knowledge that seemed almost instinctive. "We've survived the first wave," he said finally, his voice calm yet commanding. "But survival is only the beginning. They're learning, adapting, and so must we." Mara nodded, feeling a strange mix of pride and anxiety. The adrenaline of the previous encounter still thrummed in her veins, and now it was replaced by the weight of responsibility. Humanity wasn't just facing an unknown enemy. They were proving their worth, asserting that they were more than a minor species lost in the stars. Mara moved to the tactical console, her hands steady despite the tension. She had learned a lot in the first encounter, and she now understood how quickly humans could adapt when survival depended on it. She glanced at him, and for a moment their eyes met. There was a quiet acknowledgement there, a shared understanding that neither of them would allow fear to dictate their actions. It was a bond forged in crisis, one that gave Mara courage she had not known she possessed. "Scout reports indicate a potential base on the nearby asteroid belt," the man said, his finger tracing coordinates on the holographic display. "They're gathering resources, analyzing our technology. We need to investigate before they return." Mara's pulse quickened. The thought of approaching alien territory was daunting. She had faced danger before, but this was something different. It was not only about survival, it was about confronting an intelligent force that could outthink them. And yet she felt a strange exhilaration. For the first time, she realized that humans did not need to fear the unknown. They could rise to meet it. The ship adjusted its course, weaving through the stars toward the asteroid belt. Mara worked alongside the man at the tactical console, coordinating maneuvers and scanning the environment for threats. The asteroid field was dense, jagged rocks floating in unpredictable patterns, but the ship's agility, combined with human ingenuity, allowed them to navigate through safely. Mara felt a rush of satisfaction as she guided the vessel past a particularly treacherous cluster, narrowly avoiding collision. The man's approving nod was all the validation she needed. As they approached the suspected alien base, Mara's sensors picked up faint energy signatures. The structures were partially concealed, their surfaces blending seamlessly with the asteroid rock. The aliens had clearly learned from their encounter with the humans. They were cautious, intelligent, and meticulous. Mara could feel the tension in the room rise. Every member of the crew was alert, knowing that one wrong move could spell disaster. "We'll need to disable their shields before we can get close," the man said, his fingers moving rapidly over the control interface. "We can't afford to engage directly until we understand their defenses." Mara nodded, understanding the strategy. It was not just about confrontation, it was about observation, learning, and exploiting weaknesses. Humanity's strength had always been its adaptability, and this situation demanded exactly that. The ship's stealth systems activated, cloaking them from the alien sensors. Mara held her breath as they crept closer, every second stretching into an eternity. The asteroid belt seemed to close in around them, shadows shifting in unpredictable ways. The man's eyes scanned the holographic displays, calculating trajectories, energy outputs, and possible vulnerabilities. Mara could feel the intensity of his focus, and it gave her a sense of clarity she had not known she needed. Finally, they were in range. Mara initiated the first phase of their plan, targeted energy pulses designed to disrupt the alien shields. Outside, the alien base flickered as the pulses hit, and for a moment everything seemed frozen. Then, as predicted, the shields weakened, opening a small window for further investigation. Mara glanced at the man. His expression was unreadable, but she could sense a quiet satisfaction. Their plan was working. "Prepare for boarding," he said. "We need to gather intel quickly. Knowledge is power." Mara's heart raced. Boarding an alien base was dangerous, unpredictable, and fraught with unknown risks. But she felt ready. For the first time, she understood what he had seen in her. The spark that had terrified her before. A capacity for courage, ingenuity, and resolve that went beyond mere instinct. The boarding pod detached from the ship, silently moving toward the alien structure. Mara's hands trembled slightly, but she focused on the task at hand. The pod's systems allowed them to analyze the base's interior before making contact. Mara scanned the holographic feed, noting patterns in energy flow, movement, and environmental hazards. It was meticulous work, but she found herself absorbed, exhilarated by the challenge. The pod landed with minimal disturbance. Mara and the man emerged, stepping into the alien structure cautiously. The interior was sleek and alien, yet functional, with corridors that seemed designed for efficiency rather than comfort. Every surface glowed faintly with energy patterns that pulsed rhythmically, as if the building itself were alive. Mara felt a thrill mixed with unease. This was foreign, but it was not invincible. Humanity had faced worse odds before. As they moved deeper into the base, sensors detected small scout drones patrolling the corridors. Mara's heart raced, but the man remained calm. He guided her with precise instructions, moving silently and efficiently. They disabled the drones with non-lethal electromagnetic pulses, careful not to trigger alarms. Mara marveled at his skill, realizing that his calmness was not arrogance, it was mastery. He had seen humans overcome impossible odds before, and now he trusted her to do the same. In the central chamber, they found what they had been seeking: data cores containing information about the alien fleet's movements, resources, and strategic plans. Mara's fingers flew over the controls, downloading the information while the man stood guard. The thrill of discovery, combined with the pressure of the situation, pushed her to new levels of focus and efficiency. She realized that fear was no longer a barrier. It was a motivator, sharpening her senses and enhancing her abilities. Suddenly, a warning light flashed on the pod's console. "Reinforcements incoming," the man said, his calm demeanor unchanged. Mara felt her pulse quicken. The aliens were responding faster than expected. They needed to leave, now. The man grabbed her hand again and they sprinted toward the exit, navigating the corridors with practiced precision. Mara could hear the distant hum of alien machinery, the soft footsteps of reinforcements approaching. Adrenaline surged through her as they reached the pod, the energy cores secured. She climbed inside, heart pounding, and the man followed. The pod detached and raced back to the ship, weaving through the asteroid belt with skill and agility. Mara handled the navigation controls while the man coordinated defensive measures, ensuring that no alien vessel could intercept them. The thrill of danger combined with the satisfaction of accomplishment left her exhilarated. She had never felt more alive. Back on the ship, they secured the data cores and analyzed the information. Mara's eyes widened as she absorbed the scope of the intelligence they had gathered. The aliens were more organized than they had imagined, but there were weaknesses, patterns of behavior, predictable responses, and vulnerabilities in their fleet's structure. Humanity now had an advantage, not because they were stronger, but because they were clever, adaptable, and willing to act decisively. The man turned to her, eyes meeting hers with that same intensity that had both terrified and inspired her from the beginning. "This is just the start," he said. "We now know more about them than they know about us. And that knowledge gives us power." Mara nodded, feeling a surge of confidence. She realized that the fear she had felt before, of being seen, of being tested, had transformed into something else. Purpose. She was not just a participant in this conflict. She was a human being, fully capable, fully alive, and essential to the survival of her species. As the ship continued its journey through the stars, Mara stood beside him, gazing out at the distant points of light. The galaxy was vast, filled with challenges and mysteries, but she no longer felt small or insignificant. Humanity had faced the unknown and had survived. They had adapted, learned, and grown stronger, and with each passing moment Mara felt the truth settle deep within her. Being seen, being alive, and embracing one's potential was not something to fear. It was the very essence of life itself. The ship glided silently through the asteroid belt, the stolen data cores secured in the storage bay. Mara leaned against the railing of the observation deck, her mind still racing from the adrenaline of the boarding mission. She could feel the weight of responsibility pressing on her shoulders. The information they had gathered was invaluable, but it also marked them as a target. The aliens now knew humans were bold, intelligent, and capable of unexpected strategies. Mara knew they would retaliate, and soon. Beside her, the man stood quietly, his gaze fixed on the stars. He did not speak, but Mara could sense the gears turning in his mind, calculating, predicting, planning. She had begun to notice a pattern. He never wasted energy on fear or doubt. Every thought, every action was directed toward a goal. Mara wondered if he had always been this way, or if the recent events had sharpened his instincts. Either way, she realized she was learning from him. She was becoming faster, stronger, more alert, more alive. A sudden alert on the tactical console broke her reverie. "Unidentified fleet detected bearing down on our position," the man announced, his calm voice contrasting with the rising alarm among the crew. Mara's heart raced. The aliens had followed them, and this time they were not alone. Larger ships, heavily armed and menacing, appeared on the view screen, blocking the path back to open space. "We need a plan," Mara said, her voice steady despite the fear creeping in. The man's eyes met hers, and she felt that familiar mix of terror and exhilaration, the feeling of being truly seen, truly recognized, and challenged to rise above. "We adapt," he replied simply. "We use what they don't expect." Mara nodded, understanding immediately. Humanity's advantage was not brute force, it was ingenuity. They would turn the aliens' assumptions against them. The ship's engines roared as he executed a sudden maneuver, diving into the densest part of the asteroid field. Mara gripped the console, guiding the ship through narrow passages between jagged rocks. Outside, the alien fleet struggled to follow, their larger ships unable to match the humans' nimble movements. "Divide their formation," the man instructed. "Force them to scatter. Confuse their targeting systems." Mara worked quickly, activating decoy drones and energy pulses designed to mimic their own ship's movements. Sparks of light streaked through the darkness as the aliens' sensors tried to adjust, but the humans' unpredictable tactics kept them off balance. Even as the battle raged outside, Mara couldn't stop glancing at him. There was something mesmerizing about the way he moved, the way he thought, the way he commanded without raising his voice. Every look, every gesture carried meaning. When he caught her gaze, she felt that terrifying awareness again. He saw potential in her, in humanity, that she had barely begun to understand in herself. The aliens adapted faster than expected, One of the larger ships fired a concentrated energy beam, tearing through an asteroid and sending fragments hurtling toward them. Mara yelped as debris struck the ship's hull, jolting her and the man against the railing. "Shields holding," he said, voice calm, as he recalibrated their defensive systems. Mara felt a surge of admiration. No matter how dire the situation, he remained unshaken, a rock of certainty amid chaos. Suddenly, a smaller alien vessel broke through their defenses, darting toward the ship's core. Mara and the man moved in perfect coordination. She guided the ship's energy weapons while he calculated angles and trajectories, neutralizing the threat before it could reach them. The alien's aggressiveness was matched by human precision and adaptability. Mara realized then that this was exactly what he had seen in her: the ability to act decisively under pressure, to think and adapt in the moment. Once the immediate threat was neutralized, the man turned to Mara, a faint smile on his lips. "You're improving," he said, and though it was brief, Mara felt a warmth spread through her. Recognition, approval. Something she had never craved before now felt vital, exhilarating, terrifying. But there was no time to dwell on praise. Another wave of alien ships approached, larger and more heavily armed than before. The view screen showed their numbers, their formations, their intent. Mara's mind raced. They couldn't outgun them, but they could outthink them. "Prepare for a tactical maneuver," the man instructed. "We'll use the asteroid field as cover, splitting into multiple groups. They'll underestimate us if we strike from unexpected angles." Mara followed his instructions, directing the ship into a narrow channel between two massive asteroids. Outside, the alien fleet's sensors struggled to track them accurately. Mara felt a rush of exhilaration. This was human ingenuity in action, clever, bold, and unpredictable. The ship split into two pods, each following different paths through the field. Mara guided her pod through tight passages, using every ounce of her skill to anticipate obstacles. The man's pod mirrored her movements, and together they executed a coordinated strike on the alien fleet. Energy pulses struck the larger ships, forcing them to maneuver erratically and breaking their formation. Mara's heart pounded with exhilaration. Humanity was not just surviving. They were asserting themselves, challenging an enemy that had thought them insignificant. Then, an unexpected energy surge jolted the ship. Mara looked up to see a massive alien battleship emerging from the shadows, its weapons locked onto their position. The sheer size of it made her gasp. "It's a command vessel," the man said, eyes narrowing. "Taking it out will disrupt the fleet, but it won't be easy." Mara's hands flew over the controls, preparing for the next phase. She felt a mixture of fear and excitement, the same feeling that had first terrified her when he looked at her as if she were truly alive. The stakes were higher now, but so was their potential. Humanity's ingenuity, combined with courage and adaptability, could overcome even the most formidable odds. They executed a daring maneuver, diving toward the command vessel while using the asteroid field as cover. Mara's fingers moved with precision, her mind fully engaged in the task. Outside, energy beams and debris flashed, but the humans' coordinated efforts kept them ahead of the enemy's fire. The command vessel's shields flickered under sustained attack from their concentrated energy pulses. Mara felt a surge of pride. They were doing it. They were challenging a force that had seemed unstoppable. Finally, the command vessel's shields faltered. The man coordinated a final strike, and Mara guided the ship with perfect timing. A concentrated energy beam struck the vessel, disabling its core systems. The alien fleet wavered, its formations breaking apart. Mara's chest heaved with relief and exhilaration. They had not only survived, they had won a decisive advantage. The aftermath was quiet, almost surreal. The alien fleet retreated, leaving the humans to assess the damage and recover. Mara stood beside the man on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. She felt a deep sense of pride and connection, not just to him, but to all of humanity. They had faced a superior force, adapted and triumphed. Not through brute strength, but through intelligence, courage, and resilience. The man turned to her, eyes intense, yet calm. "You've grown," he said. "Humans grow stronger under pressure. That is what makes us remarkable." Mara felt a shiver run through her. That terrifying gaze, the one that had first unsettled her, now filled her with purpose. She realized that being seen, truly seen, was not something to fear. It was a call to rise, to embrace potential, to act boldly. Mara's mind raced with possibilities. The galaxy was vast, filled with unknown challenges, but they had proven something essential. Humans were not insignificant. They were clever, resilient, and capable of extraordinary feats. And with the man by her side guiding, challenging, and recognizing her potential, she felt invincible, not in the sense of being unbeatable, but in the sense of being fully alive, fully capable, fully human. As the ship continued its journey, Mara and the man prepared for the next encounter. The aliens would return, no doubt, but now humanity was ready. They had learned, adapted, and demonstrated that they were not a species to be underestimated. And Mara knew that together they would continue to face the unknown, not with fear, but with courage, ingenuity, and unwavering determination. The stars stretched endlessly before them, vast and full of mystery. Mara took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the universe and the thrill of possibility. She was alive, and for the first time she understood what it meant to be truly seen, not as someone fragile or insignificant, but as someone capable of greatness. The calm after the last battle was fleeting. Mara could feel it in her bones, the knowledge that the aliens were regrouping, preparing for a decisive strike. The data cores they had captured contained crucial intelligence, but they also painted a clear target on humanity's back. Mara stood on the observation deck, her hands gripping the railing, watching the distant stars. Every point of light seemed alive with potential danger. Beside her, the man studied the holographic map of the galaxy, his expression calm yet intense. Mara had grown accustomed to his composure, yet it never failed to unsettle her. There was power in the quiet confidence he exuded, a reminder that fear was a choice and courage was action. "They're coming," he said finally, not as a warning, but as a statement of fact. Mara nodded, feeling the surge of adrenaline begin again. This time they would not merely survive, they would demonstrate humanity's strength in the face of overwhelming odds. The ship's sensors detected the alien fleet approaching from multiple directions. Their ships were larger now, more advanced and better coordinated. But Mara's heart swelled with determination. Humanity had faced impossible odds before, and humans had a way of turning adversity into opportunity. Every strike, every maneuver, every decision counted. And this time, Mara was not just an observer. She was a vital part of the effort. The man's eyes met hers, and Mara felt that familiar, electrifying sensation, the terrifying awareness of being truly seen. "We've learned from them," he said quietly. "We've adapted. And now we strike." The humans were ready. Mara and the man coordinated the ship's systems, deploying decoys, defensive shields, and tactical energy pulses. The alien fleet advanced, confident in their superiority, but they had underestimated one thing: the unpredictability and ingenuity of humans. The first clash was sudden and violent. Energy beams streaked through the void, colliding with shields and sending sparks cascading across the consoles. Mara's fingers moved rapidly over the controls, guiding the ship through asteroid clusters and debris fields. The aliens' formations fractured as humans exploited every weakness, striking from angles they could not anticipate. Amid the chaos, Mara noticed the man observing the fleet with sharp calculation. He directed the crew with precision, issuing orders that balanced defense and offense. Mara found herself inspired by his unwavering confidence. She realized that the fear she had once felt when he looked at her was now transformed into purpose. She was alive, fully present, and capable of action beyond her previous limits. "Target the energy cores of the lead ships," he commanded. "Focus on their command chain. Disrupt their coordination." Mara executed the orders, feeling a thrill as her actions contributed to the larger strategy. Energy beams struck with precision, sending the alien ships into disarray. They had underestimated humans' ability to think creatively, to act decisively, and to use their environment as an advantage. The aliens responded with a barrage of concentrated fire. The ship shuddered as shields absorbed the blows, alarms blaring across the control deck. Mara felt a jolt of panic, but she pushed it aside. Fear had its place, but it could not control her. She was alive, aware, and determined, and with the man by her side she knew they could turn the tide. "Divert all power to forward shields and engines," he said. "We'll create an opening and strike at the command vessel directly." Mara followed his orders, the ship responding with agility that belied its size. The aliens struggled to keep up, their formations disrupted, their confidence shaken. Humanity was not just surviving. They were asserting dominance through strategy, ingenuity, and courage. The final approach to the alien command vessel was tense. Mara guided the ship through a narrow asteroid corridor, every movement precise. Outside, energy beams and debris flashed dangerously close, but the humans' coordination kept them safe. The man's voice remained calm, directing every action with clarity and purpose. Mara felt a deep admiration, mixed with the thrill of fear transformed into strength. As they closed in on the command vessel, the ship's weapon systems locked onto critical points. Mara initiated the firing sequence, sending a concentrated energy strike into the alien hull. The vessel shuddered violently, systems failing as explosions rippled across its surface. The alien fleet faltered, its command disrupted, and Mara felt a surge of exhilaration. Humanity was winning, not through sheer force but through intelligence, courage, and unity. The battle continued, waves of alien ships retreating or being disabled. Mara and the man coordinated precise strikes, exploiting every weakness, turning every challenge into an opportunity. For the first time, she understood the full meaning of what he had seen in her. The potential for greatness, the ability to act decisively, and the courage to confront fear without hesitation. Finally, the alien fleet broke entirely, retreating into the void. Mara and the man stood side by side on the observation deck, breathing heavily but alive. The stars stretched endlessly before them, serene once more. Yet Mara knew this was only a temporary calm. The galaxy was vast, full of challenges yet unseen, but for the first time she felt the undeniable truth of human resilience. The man turned to her, eyes intense yet soft. "You've done well," he said. Mara felt a warmth she had never known. It wasn't mere praise, it was recognition of her courage, her ingenuity, and her ability to rise when it mattered most. The terrifying awareness of being truly seen had transformed into a source of strength, a reminder that she was fully alive. Mara nodded, her chest swelling with pride. "We did it," she whispered. "Together?" "Yes," he said, his voice calm and confident. "And we will continue. Humanity will endure, adapt, and rise above every challenge. That is who we are." The ship's crew began repairing systems and assessing the aftermath. Mara remained on the observation deck, gazing at the stars with renewed purpose. She reflected on the journey, the fear, the battles, the moments of doubt, and realized that every challenge had shaped her, strengthened her, and revealed what it truly meant to be alive. The man stood beside her, his presence steady and grounding. For the first time, Mara fully understood why his gaze had once terrified her. It had not been judgment or threat. It had been recognition of potential, the acknowledgement that humans were extraordinary when pushed to their limits. And now she embraced that truth. As the ship resumed its course through the galaxy, Mara felt a profound sense of purpose. The universe was vast and dangers would always exist, but humanity was not insignificant. Humans had intelligence, adaptability, and courage that could overcome even the most formidable adversaries. And with allies like the man beside her, she felt ready to face anything the stars could throw at them. For the first time, Mara truly believed in herself and in humanity. She understood that being alive was not merely surviving or existing. It was embracing challenges, confronting fear, and rising to meet the unknown with determination, ingenuity, and heart. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, a vast canvas of opportunity and danger. Mara breathed deeply, feeling the full measure of life and the promise of what humanity could achieve. She looked at the man once more, and in that gaze, she saw the reflection of all they had endured, all they had achieved, and all they were capable of becoming. The galaxy awaited, full of mysteries, challenges, and battles yet to come. But Mara and the man would face them together. And humanity, with courage, ingenuity, and relentless spirit, would continue to shine, undaunted, unbroken, and fully alive.